You know how we gardeners always dream of a garden that takes care of itself, filled with colorful blooms that return year after year? Well, what if I told you that some of those so-called easy care perennials are actually silent garden destroyers? Plants that creep, choke, and take over your yard faster than weeds on a warm spring morning. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you might be rethinking a few plants you once thought were your favorites. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Serene Green Gardens, the calm corner of the internet where we help you grow a gorgeous garden without draining your wallet. And if you're new here, I'm so glad you found us. Go ahead and grab a comfy seat, maybe a cup of tea, and let's dig into today's eye-opening list of perennials that might just be sabotaging your garden. Before we dive in, if you love smart, budget-friendly gardening tips that actually work, then hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and ring that little bell so you never miss a new gardening secret. It really helps our garden family grow, and trust me, you'll want to stick around for what's coming next. 1. Lily of the Valley. At first glance, Lily of the Valley feels like pure garden magic. Those delicate white bells seem so peaceful, like something straight out of a spring dream. The scent is soft and sweet, and you'd think, what harm could such a tiny plant do? But here's the truth. This little beauty is one of the most invasive perennials you can ever plant. Beneath that innocent charm is a root system that spreads like wildfire, quietly claiming every inch of soil it can touch. Once it takes hold, it doesn't just grow, it conquers. It'll slither under fences, sneak into neighboring flower beds, and show up where you never invited it. It multiplies fast, and when you try to remove it, it laughs at your shovel. Unless you manage to dig up every single rhizome, it'll just reappear, stronger and smugger than before. Many gardeners plant Lily of the Valley for its fragrance or its supposed low-maintenance appeal, but it comes with a cost: time, patience, and frustration. You'll spend more hours trying to contain it than you ever saved by planting it in the first place. And if you've got pets or small kids, that's another red flag. Every part of this plant is toxic. So, if you see those sweet little blooms at the nursery calling your name, resist the temptation. Choose something equally beautiful but far more polite. Your garden and your sanity will thank you later. 2. Yellow loosestrife, Lysimachia punctata. Now this one might surprise you, because at first sight, yellow loosestrife looks like sunshine in plant form. Those cheerful yellow spikes bloom proudly in early summer, lighting up any dull corner of the yard. But behind that bright, friendly face hides a serious troublemaker. This perennial doesn't like to share. Once planted, it spreads through underground runners that quickly form dense colonies, pushing out everything else in its way. Gardeners often fall for it because it seems so easy. It grows fast, it fills gaps, it makes a bold statement. And that's exactly how it wins you over before it starts its quiet takeover. Within a season or two, you'll find it spreading far beyond where you planted it, popping up between pathways and crowding out your more delicate plants that don't stand a chance. And here's where it gets frustrating. It doesn't respond well to gentle pruning or digging. The roots break easily, and each broken piece is like a seed of rebellion. It grows back with a vengeance. Many gardeners in the US have spent years trying to completely remove it, only to see it reappear like an uninvited guest that refuses to leave. So before you give yellow loosestrife a spot in your garden, think twice. There are other golden bloomers, like Coreopsis or black-eyed Susan, that will bring you that same burst of color without the headache. Sometimes, a little restraint is what keeps your garden truly serene. 3. Obedient plant, Physostegia virginiana. Don't let the name fool you. The obedient plant is anything but obedient. It's one of those perennials that seduces you with its beauty. Tall, graceful stems covered in pink or white tubular flowers that bees and hummingbirds absolutely adore. You plant it thinking it'll be a polite, easygoing neighbor. But within a couple of seasons, it starts behaving like that one guest who overstays their welcome. This plant spreads aggressively through underground rhizomes, and once it's comfortable, it can dominate an entire bed before you realize what's happening. You might cut it back or pull a few stalks out, but unless you're ready to dig deep, literally, it'll come back even stronger. It's the kind of plant that looks controlled on the surface, but secretly builds an underground network that refuses to quit. Many gardeners across the US have learned this lesson the hard way. They plant it once for those showy summer blooms, only to spend the next few years battling it. And while it's not technically invasive in every region, it behaves like it wants to be. It grows fast, competes hard, and takes no prisoners, especially if your soil is rich and moist, which it loves. If you adore that cottage garden look, go for something like foxglove or penstemon instead. Both bring elegance and color without the drama. With the obedient plant, beauty comes with baggage, and trust me, your garden's peace is worth more than a few fleeting flowers. 4. Bee balm, Monarda didyma. This one might sting a little, because who doesn't love bee balm? It's bright, it's fragrant, and it brings in pollinators like a summer parade. Those bursts of red, pink, and purple look stunning in any garden, and at first glance, you'd think it's the perfect perennial. But here's what many gardeners learn too late. Bee balm is a space hog in disguise. Once it finds a comfortable spot, it spreads fast through underground runners, forming thick, tangled clumps that can smother nearby plants before you even notice. In the first year, it feels like a dream. By the second, it's a full-on invasion. It creeps beyond its borders, pushing into neighboring perennials and stealing nutrients from less aggressive plants. Even if you try to thin it out, those runners are stubborn. Leave a single piece behind, and you'll be dealing with a comeback next season. And if you live in humid parts of the US, it brings another headache: powdery mildew. Those gorgeous leaves can turn dusty and dull overnight. Now don't get me wrong, bee balm isn't a total villain. It's beautiful and beloved for wildlife gardens, but it demands strict boundaries. It belongs in containers, raised beds, or spaces where you can control its roots. Without that, it becomes the garden's loudest guest, talking over everyone else. So before you plant bee balm thinking it'll bring life to your garden, make sure you're ready to manage it. There are calmer alternatives like echinacea or agastache that attract just as many pollinators, but without trying to take over the neighborhood. 5. Creeping Jenny, Lysomachia nummularia. At first sight, creeping Jenny looks like a dream come true for anyone who loves a lush, green carpet in the garden. Those little round leaves spill beautifully over pots, rocks, and walkways, catching light in a way that makes everything feel alive and fresh. But don't be fooled by that innocent charm. This plant is a relentless crawler. Once it touches soil, it spreads fast, gripping onto everything it can find and refusing to let go. Gardeners often plant it for ground cover, thinking it'll behave like a tidy accent plant. But within a single season, creeping Jenny starts marching across the yard like it owns the place. It'll weave through your flower beds, climb over borders, and before you know it, it's choking out your delicate perennials and herbs. It spreads by both root and stem, meaning every tiny piece left behind is enough to start a brand new colony. Even when you try to remove it, it's stubborn. Pulling it out feels satisfying at first, until you realize it's back again in a few weeks, stronger than before. And because it loves moisture, it thrives in all those damp corners where other plants struggle, which means once it's there, it's not leaving without a serious fight. If you love that cascading look, you're better off with something more manageable like sweet potato vine or trailing lobelia. They'll give you that same lush, trailing beauty without the creeping chaos. In a small space, creeping Jenny can be charming, but in open soil, it quickly turns into a green nightmare. 6. Houtoinia cordata, chameleon plant. Now here's a perennial that tricks nearly everyone at first glance. The chameleon plant looks like something out of an artist's palette. Leaves splashed with shades of green, yellow, pink, and red that shimmer beautifully in the sunlight. It promises color, ground coverage, and that exotic feel every gardener loves to add. But what most people don't know is that this plant is the definition of deceptive beauty. Once it sets root, it spreads faster than you can imagine, turning from pretty accent to total garden takeover. The problem isn't just its speed, it's how deep and strong its roots grow. Houtoinia spreads underground through rhizomes that weave tightly into the soil, often sneaking beneath rocks, borders, and even garden barriers. Try to dig it up, and you'll find its roots breaking into dozens of tiny pieces, each one capable of sprouting a brand new plant. It's like fighting a hydra. Cut one head off, and 3 more appear. And here's where it really gets tricky. It thrives in damp or shady spots where other plants struggle, so it often dominates areas where you least expect it. Some gardeners in the US have spent years trying to get rid of it, only to find it creeping right back. Even herbicides barely make a dent because of those tough underground runners. If you're drawn to its colorful foliage, don't worry. You have safer options. Go for coleus or caladium instead. They'll give you all that rich color variation without threatening to overthrow your entire backyard. With the chameleon plant, it's better to admire from afar, because once it moves in, it's almost impossible to evict. If you're finding this list a little shocking, don't worry, you're not alone. Most of us have fallen for at least one of these so-called low-maintenance perennials before. It's all part of the gardening journey, right? But hey, if you're learning something new today, or maybe realizing there's a plant you'll be replacing soon, give this video a quick thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow and tells me you're enjoying this kind of content. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments, have you ever planted a perennial that turned into your biggest garden regret? I'd love to hear your stories. You might even help another gardener avoid the same mistake. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button right now. We post calm, honest, and budget-friendly gardening tips every week, all designed to help you grow smarter, not harder. Now, let's get back to our list, because number 7 is one you'll want to know before it takes over your yard. 7. Japanese anemone, Anemone hupahensis. Japanese anemones are the picture of elegance, tall, delicate stems topped with soft pink or white blooms that sway gracefully in the breeze. They're often sold as a refined, easy perennial that adds height and charm to borders or cottage-style gardens. But behind that sophistication lies a surprisingly aggressive nature. Once planted, they can quietly spread through underground rhizomes, slowly taking over beds and pathways, often beyond the spot you intended. Gardeners often underestimate how fast these perennials multiply. In a single season, a small cluster can become a sprawling colony, crowding out other plants that need more space. Because they like rich, well-drained soil, they often target the very areas where you've invested time and care, making it tricky to control them without serious digging. Even trimming or dividing them won't always solve the problem. Each rhizome left behind has the potential to sprout a new plant, which means a careful gardener can spend weeks trying to keep them in check. And while the blooms are beautiful in late summer, their charm doesn't always outweigh the labor required to maintain them. If you love the look of Japanese anemones but want something more manageable, try planting asters or rudbeckias instead. They offer long-lasting blooms, attract pollinators, and don't sneak around your garden while you sleep. Elegance is wonderful, but in gardening, peace of mind is priceless. 8. Fountain grass, sedum alopecuroides. Fountain grass might look like the perfect ornamental grass, feathery plumes that dance in the breeze, adding movement and texture to any garden bed. It's often marketed as a low-maintenance perennial that's drought-tolerant and easy to plant, which makes it a favorite for many gardeners. But here's the catch. While it may seem calm and graceful, fountain grass can quietly take over if conditions are right. It produces self-seeding babies that can pop up where you least expect them, creating clusters that compete with nearby plants for space and nutrients. The problem becomes even more pronounced in rich soil or areas with little disturbance. Fountain grass spreads faster than many gardeners anticipate, often requiring regular thinning to prevent overcrowding. Ignore it for a season or two, and you could be looking at a bed dominated by a single species, losing the variety and balance you originally planned. Its beauty comes at a hidden cost. If left unmanaged, it can overshadow smaller perennials, block sunlight, and even harbor pests that take advantage of dense foliage. And because it reseeds so easily, fountain grass can appear in borders and pathways you never intended, making it feel more like a wild invader than a controlled garden accent. If you love the look of ornamental grasses but want less hassle, consider blue fescue or switchgrass. They provide texture and movement without the sneaky spread, allowing you to enjoy the beauty of grass without the stress of constant management. 9. Autumn Joy Sedum, Hylotelephium Autumn Joy. Autumn Joy Sedum looks like a dream for late-season color. Thick, succulent leaves topped with clusters of pinkish blooms that fade to a rich bronze as fall approaches. It's drought-tolerant, hardy, and often recommended as an easy-care perennial for American gardens. But here's the twist. While it seems so gentle and well-behaved, it can quietly expand beyond its intended space. The plant produces offsets and spreads through creeping roots, creating dense patches that push out smaller, less aggressive neighbors. Gardeners love it for the flowers, but the thick foliage and spreading habit can quickly become a problem. Without regular division or containment, autumn joy sedum can take over flower beds, pathways, and even pots. That slow creep often goes unnoticed at first, which is why many gardeners are surprised when a once tidy bed becomes crowded and unmanageable within a few seasons. It's not toxic or particularly invasive in the extreme sense, but it's persistent enough to frustrate anyone who isn't prepared for its growth. Even deadheading and trimming won't fully control its spreading habit, making it a perennial that demands more attention than it first appears to offer. If you adore succulent perennials but want a calmer companion, try hens and chicks, sempervivum, or stonecrop varieties that stay compact. They'll bring charm and resilience to your garden without creeping into every corner like autumn joy sedum does. 10. Golden ragwort, Pachera aurea. Golden ragwort seems harmless at first. Bright yellow flowers in early spring, cheerful leaves, and a promise of quick ground cover in shady areas. Many gardeners love it for its early season color, especially under trees or along woodland edges. But here's the catch. This plant spreads aggressively through underground rhizomes, often faster than you realize. Before long, it's forming dense mats that push out other perennials you actually want in your garden. At first, it feels like a helpful friend, filling gaps and providing a burst of color. But by the second or third season, it can dominate entire beds. Its fast-spreading habit is deceptive because the flowers are so lovely. You might think, this looks great, until it's quietly taking over every corner of your yard. And because it thrives in moist, rich soil, it often targets the very spots where you've spent time cultivating other plants. Golden ragwort is easy to grow, but that ease comes with a price. Digging it up is a challenge because even small pieces left in the soil will grow again. Gardeners often underestimate how stubborn it can be, and suddenly, a plant meant for charm becomes a source of frustration. If you love early yellow blooms, consider alternatives like creeping buttercup or primroses, which offer color without the aggressive underground network. Sometimes, keeping a garden serene means letting go of plants that seem too easy at first glance. 11. Hellebores, Hellebores spp. Hellebores are often called the Christmas rose or Lenten rose for their winter and early spring blooms, and they look absolutely enchanting. Dark green, leathery leaves cradle delicate flowers in shades of white, pink, and purple. Many gardeners think they're the perfect low-maintenance perennial, especially for shaded areas. But here's the tricky part. While they don't spread like some of the other plants on this list, Hellebores self-seed prolifically. Those seeds can pop up in the most unexpected corners, creating clusters where you didn't plan for them. The first season, you'll enjoy a tidy, elegant plant that complements your shade garden. By the next year, though, you might notice tiny seedlings popping up along pathways, in flower beds, and sometimes even in lawn edges. If left unchecked, these volunteers can create crowded spaces, competing with other perennials for nutrients and water. Another thing to note, hellebores take a while to establish, so when they self-seed, the new plants might appear sporadically and unpredictably. While this can create a natural, woodland effect, it can also make your garden feel less orderly than you intended. And since mature plants are slow to move, you often spend time relocating seedlings if you want to keep a neat design. If you adore hellebores but want more control, try pairing them with slow-spreading ground covers like ajaga or creeping phlox. You'll still get charm, seasonal interest, and shade-loving beauty, without the surprise seedlings popping up everywhere. 12. Hardy geranium, Geranium macrorhizum. Hardy geraniums might seem like the perfect solution for a low-maintenance, long-lasting garden. They offer beautiful, five-petaled flowers in shades of pink, purple, or white, and their foliage is aromatic and lush. At first, they appear polite and easygoing, the kind of perennial you expect to quietly enhance your garden year after year. But don't be fooled. These plants have a surprisingly aggressive spreading habit. Once they settle in, they send out runners that can quickly fill large areas, often overtaking neighboring perennials and edging out other plants. Gardeners love them for their resilience and adaptability, but those same qualities make them tricky to control. Hardy geraniums thrive in most soil types, tolerate drought, and resist pests, which means they can easily dominate flower beds if not carefully managed. Even regular trimming may not prevent them from creeping into spaces where you didn't plant them. Over time, a small patch can become a dense carpet that is difficult to remove without digging up large sections of soil. The deceptive charm of hardy geraniums is that their growth is slow to start. Many gardeners plant them and think, "Oh, this is perfect, it's well-behaved." But patience reveals the truth. They steadily expand, and before long, they're dictating the layout of your garden rather than fitting in gracefully. If you're drawn to low-maintenance ground covers, consider creeping thyme or vinca minor instead. They provide long-lasting blooms and foliage without quietly taking over your garden beds. Sometimes, the prettiest plants are not the ones that grow everywhere. They're the ones that grow where you actually want them. And that wraps up our list of the 12 perennials you should think twice about before planting in your garden. I hope this video gave you some insights and maybe even saved you from a few future headaches. Remember, a serene garden isn't just about beauty. It's about balance, control, and making sure every plant has its place. Before you go, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if it helps you, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss tips that will keep your garden flourishing without the chaos. And ring the bell for notifications. We have so many more smart, budget-friendly gardening ideas coming your way. Thank you for spending time here at Serene Green Gardens. Keep your hands in the soil, your heart in the blooms, and your garden calm, controlled, and truly serene.